Hi, welcome everyone for our last webinar today. Thank you for joining. And I'm here with April from Cisco, who is going to talk about design thinking and pitching, which is a very exciting topic ahead of the hackathon. So I'm just going to pass it over for you, April.
Hi, everyone. So happy pre-hackathon. And I'm delighted to talk to you about one of my favorite topics, design thinking and presenting. And so we've got a pretty full agenda, but we just wanted to provide you with some tools and techniques that you can use, very easy to have the most fun hackathon yet. So a little bit about myself. I am April Bilbrey. I'm Belgian and American, so I'm dialing in from Brussels. I'm married 17 years. I'm a cat and plant mom. And when it comes to my job, I identify as a human-centered designer. And so I work at Cisco. I'm a business solutions architect, and I lead for Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Russia, a sales center of excellence in our system engineering org, and it's around business architecture. And I'm pretty lucky because part of my job as a business architect, I get to do design thinking. So I teach design thinking in our sales associate program, and I also get to do it with our customers and our partners. So enough about me. What's our agenda? So we'll do the why and the what of design thinking. I know some of us have been exposed, some of us may even be experts, and some of us may be new for the first time. So I try to find something that's interesting for all of us. We'll quickly look at some design thinking frameworks because sometimes it's a little bit strange. There's so many out there. And in fact, I'm going to use Cisco's design thinking framework. We're going to spend the bulk of our time talking about exercises that could be really useful for your hackathon team. And then we'll end with pitching your idea to the judges. So welcome, designer. And yes, that absolutely means you. And why? Well, because everything is designed. It's either designed with intention or as a consequence of circumstance. So here you see two pictures, right? I don't know about you, but if I don't have a lot of time, I don't want to have to use the collection of signs on the left to figure out if I can park. And so what you see is, from Los Angeles, California on the left, these are actual signs. And a really smart designer from the Bronx took that, designed those signs with intention, made it usable. So design thinking, how can we use that in our hackathon? So we'll talk a little bit more about why it's important. And then, like I said, we're going to spend, I would say, the lion's share of our time just looking at the actual techniques. All right, go. Let's see, Anna Maria, it looks like the screen is frozen. Is that the same for you? Technology, it's definitely a Friday.
It's looking good now.
Okay, so all right, that's good. Let's go. So sometimes we get in situations with design thinking where it just feels like we all want to go somewhere and we really care, but it doesn't feel very structured. So design thinking can help us actually create a bit more clarity from situations that look like that. Or it could be that, you're in a hackathon group with really smart people who really care, and they maybe are even experts or know a lot about what they're bringing to the table. But sometimes we need to just bring it all together. So design thinking can help make the sum greater than its parts. Yeah. Or sometimes we think, okay, we all know what we're going to hack on. We're absolutely on the same sheet of music. But in fact, if we can externalize some of our thoughts and actually make them explicit outside of us, we can see, oh, well, actually, maybe we're not exactly aligned. But the cool thing about design thinking is that you can get aligned, and not only get aligned, you can get creative with each other. And so in the end, you actually can be aligned and all be thinking the same thing. Sometimes with design thinking, we want to eliminate issues where maybe we're an introvert, right? Or maybe there's a dynamic where, I don't know, the most opinionated person or the most fun person or whatever it is, they seem to be getting a lot of airtime, and you might not be able to kind of share what you are thinking. Design thinking provides those structures so that everybody gets to share and they get the same amount of time and, that sort of thing. So what is it? So we've got this working definition. Design thinking is a creative and collaborative problem-solving method. And we're all creative, right? That doesn't mean artistic, it means creative. We're born that way. And it's used to generate more empathetic and innovative solutions. And we're going to come back to this, this word empathy as well. So it's at the crux of human desirability. Do they want it? And technological feasibility. Can we build it? And even business viability. Is there really a business case for this? And design thinking sort of sits in the middle. And I mentioned before, there's a lot of frameworks, a lot of really fantastic frameworks. And what they all have in common is this: no matter what it is, whether you already have an idea or you're just starting from scratch or not sure, all of these frameworks say, when you do discovery, even traditional analytic discovery, pair it with empathetic discovery and don't jump to a solution. Do your discovery first, define the real problems, and then come up with solutions, which maybe you might have had from the beginning, but it can be enhanced with, that empathetic discovery. So we've got this Cisco design thinking framework. So this is our framework and the one that I teach in CSAP. And what you see here are 2 Ds and an E. So it's discover, and that's the empathy, pairing that, human focus along with the other kind of discovery. And define, right? So we can spend lots of time beautifully solving the wrong problem. So look at all the problems to be solved and then just choose the one or ones that really make a lot of sense, and then come up with ideas. But come up with lots of ideas, lots and lots, and then choose the one that best fits the circumstance. And as you can see here, the whole time, make things tangible. Don't keep them in your head, take them outside of your head, and when and where you can, validate with the human or humans, that are part of your challenge or innovation space. Yeah. So there's a quote by Einstein. People say he said it. I'm not really sure he said it, but if he didn't, I still love it. It said, if I only had 1 hour to save the world, I'd spend 55 minutes defining the problem and only 5 minutes finding the solution. So design thinking is this go slow to go fast approach. It's not design doing, it's design thinking. Think about it first. So again, if we just flip back up the Cisco framework, right, those 2 Ds, that's your metaphorical 55 minutes, right? Understanding the problem and then coming up with the solutions, that's your 5 minutes, right? To save the world. So let's dig in, right? Let's look at some of these techniques that are actually really useful in hackathons. So I might give some examples. I give examples all the time. And so one I'll probably return to quite a bit is, look, we want to design a more sustainable work experience that reduces our carbon footprint, right? We want to be more, green and ethical and all this kind of good stuff. So you'll hear me talk about that a little more. So to start with, we're just going to go through, discover, and then define and explore. And I'm going to give you 2 handfuls of techniques, and you can choose which ones you want to use in your hackathon. So discover. This is about understanding your users or the humans at the center of the challenge or innovation space to really discover the opportunity. And so to do that, it's empathy. And sometimes empathy, yeah, it feels a bit fuzzy. What is that? So we'll give ourselves 3 qualities of empathy to help us understand this discovery mindset. And so the first one, see the world as others see it. Just, walk a mile in someone else's shoes. And this will invoke empathy. This will get you in that mindset, and also be non-judgmental. And it doesn't mean, don't judge, right? I mean, you need judgment. You need to know right and wrong and good and bad and make choices and whatever. But when you're in this mindset of empathy, just try to be a sponge. Take it in and suspend judgment, just while you're channeling this. And then last but not least, be compassionate. And that's about, we're all in this together. Nobody's perfect, being flawed and wonderful and all the other things. It's part of the human condition. So just kind of accepting that as we are channeling this empathy. Yeah. So first technique, we're going to rock and roll, go right in the Fishbone Diagram. So this is a framework to kind of work with your hackathon team to gather in a structured way what we know about our challenge or innovation space, right? So first and foremost, let's have empathy for ourselves, right? So who are we as individuals? Let's come together. What do you know about it? What do you know about it? What are you concerned about? Whatever. And so we can understand our group's inventory of the experiences and ideas and insights around whatever is the space that we want to hack on. And it also creates group alignment because it's kind of structured. It's kind and polite and thoughtful because of the structure. And so it helps create alignment, right? Alignment doesn't mean agreement necessarily. It does mean I'm aware of what you're thinking about this thing and how you're feeling about it. And you can structure your group's starting position doing this as well. And you see, I just used a little, Windows marker, and I just drew kind of a little fish head. And then I drew these sort of spikes. So it's very easy to do. If you Google, you will easily find, different templates you can use, but you could just draw it on a whiteboard. All this stuff is very easy. You can just draw it on a whiteboard or a big piece of paper, or, flip chart, whatever. So if you want to achieve consensus on some important insights to take forward, I highly recommend considering the Fishbone Diagram. And so I'll give you an example, and this will take you about 30 all the way up to 30 minutes, all the way up to 1 hour to do. It just depends on, the level of discussion that you're having, but it's pretty simple. So you see, when I do this, I tend to keep it very simple. I do 4 aspects, and one of them is always other, because you can never predict every category or aspect of discussion. If you can, let me know how you do it. So here you go. So my example, right? I want to create this sustainable work experience. I want to be more green at work. And so maybe I'm going to choose the generic people, process, tech, and other. And it's real simple. We just invite people to add one, maybe their top 2 insights about the challenge to each space. So for example, maybe Anna Maria says, well, when it comes to people, is the customer going to care if we in our team is actually sustainable at work? And maybe I say, oh, the finance department, right? They're always like, no, nothing expensive. And maybe Anna Marie says around process, well, we can add green to our design process, right? And maybe that'll help us be more green. And maybe I say, let's review all of our processes end to end and see where we can go green. Yeah. Or tech. Can we do more virtual work using technology? Or, we're using virgin plastic in the things we make. We should consider like a different technology there. And other is just whatever anybody comes up with, right? Oh, let's review like our industry's green best practices, or I just want to say we've tried this before and this was my experience, right? And see, so what you do, you give people time to think and write first. Yeah, so without interruption, just give people, like 6 minutes, not a lot of time. What's your top of mind? Everybody writes it down. They add it in a way that others can see it. And then one aspect at a time, you have a conversation. So, Anna Maria tells me what she said for people. I say what I said for people. Barbara says what she said for people, whatever. Maybe we have a bit of a chat and then we move on. And then optionally, if you want, you can dot vote, right? And ideally, this has 4 aspects. So you always give people the number of aspects plus 2, just in case they want to vote on their own. So, vote for 1 in each category and 2 anywhere. Like, what do you think is the most important, right? And then you can have a bit of a chat around that. And it will just basically tell you, oh, this seems to be the top of mind. So as we move forward, let's keep it in mind. So empathy, right? And you can't have a design thinking discussion without talking about an empathy map. They say it's invented by Dave Gray. He wrote the fantastic game storming book with lots of design thinking techniques, but an empathy map. This is a framework to gather and structure what we know or believe about this user or the human at the center of where we want to hack, right? And you can see this is a very simple one. It has 5 parts. And the most important part is in the middle. That's your user. It can be an actual person, or we should build a representative or proto person, right? And then you say, okay, well, what do we believe that this person is thinking, right? What's on their mind? What are they feeling? Which is not the same as thinking. Feeling is an emotion, happy, sad, scared, whatever. What's frustrating them or keeping them up at night? What are their pains? And then gains, like what do they want to happen or need to happen, right? What would blow their socks off? And so you can use an empathy map to understand your human's current experience, to summarize what we know and also see what we don't know, maybe where we need a bit more information, to clarify what they really need. And most importantly, it's a key perspective for making decisions. I mean, I recommend doing it with Agile because, we have to make a million decisions, right? And often we'll make a decision that's, maybe technologically easier for us. But we're not the user. So what does the user need? And so this is a great tool to do in the beginning, but also to come back to later. Just to help you make those decisions, stay aligned. You can even use it when you do your pitch, right? So it can help you create a story. So they're really powerful and they're really easy. So for example, right? So here's our hackathon group. They're going to take somewhere between 15 and 30 minutes to do an empathy map. They're just going to draw it on like a whiteboard, or maybe they'll get a template. And so, let's do Jill. So Jill is actually representing a group of people who want to be more sustainable at work. I made Jill up. So Jill is not somebody I know. She's not someone in my hackathon group. And she's not like Jane Doe or whatever, because I mean, we want to have empathy for this person. So we give her, a name, we give her an age, maybe a job title. So I'm saying she's a 38-year-old product manager. And then now, a bit of organized chaos, me and my hackathon team, right? We're going to add insight. So what do we think she's thinking? Well, the world's not going to get greener by itself, so our team should do something. And surely we can start somewhere. And she's feeling worried about our planet. She's frustrated that the climate crisis doesn't feel connected to what she does, for 8 to 10 hours a day. And she feels hopeful that she can make a real difference. But some pains are, the product at the company, their designs aren't necessarily accounting for sustainability. And this return to the new normal, right? Well, here we are. We're all traveling back and forth to work again, the fossil fuel economy at work. And then some gains, some stuff that she wants. Well, okay. So we should eliminate unsustainable practices at work. For me, that's table stakes. So, I'm Jill. That's what I want. And I would love, it would blow my socks off if we could actually have our company become known for sustainability. So you see, there's this abstract concept of a user, You make that user tangible. You build a person around which you can have empathy. And then that's what you return to over and over again. Very classic. And if I could recommend anything of all the stuff we're talking about, an empathy map is definitely one. And there's other maps. So here from the Nielsen Norman Group, big favorite of mine. What's a map? It's this, it represents something. It's a framework that represents relationships between elements that have like a context, they have meaning in some way. And so you can use other maps like to simplify complexity. If you start hacking and you're like, whoa, there's actually a lot of moving parts here. There are other maps that you can also use that will help you a lot. And you can structure information in a visual and contextual way. Why say it and then try to remember it later when you could just make it visual and you can refer to it, right? There's a reason why when we watch the crime shows, right, they've got their serial killer wall, because looking at stuff is very inspiring and it's helpful. And then it can also, again, create alignment in your team through this shared representation of your human's experience. And it can also highlight the key insights and even some knowledge gaps. So there's two of them I'll just deep dive on just a little bit. So an ecosystem map. This will take you about half an hour, all the way up to an hour, again, depending on, what it is that you're hacking on and, what you know and don't know as a team, right? So this is a framework to visualize the elements that your human interacts with during a specific experience. Yeah, so you define what that experience is. And then here you see, you'll put the human in the middle, and then you'll start putting other people and things like they're either close or they're far away, vis-a-vis context, some activity or something that they're interacting with. So this is a good way to inventory group knowledge, right? So kind of like the Fishbone helps you do that via aspects. This helps you do that via, okay, what's the human doing and, what do we know about it? And you can understand where you might focus to improve the overall experience. And it's basically just to visualize the key people, the key organizations, the things that your human interacts with during activities. So I'll give you another example from the Nielsen Norman Group, buying a home, right? So the human we want to look at is going to be a home buyer. Give them a name, give them an age, don't call them home buyer, right? And then say, okay, well, who is, Jacqueline? Who is she interacting with? Well, she's interacting with her family and friends, right? But also maybe an attorney, because she's got to do some paperwork, or, she's got to talk to real estate agents, or maybe even like contractors, because when she's buying a home, she wants to do some work, right? So just a way to kind of get it all out there in a semi-structured, really simple way. And I mean, it's nothing to kind of draw this on a whiteboard, right? It's no problem at all. And then one more map, a journey map. And so this is also pretty classic in design thinking. And this is a framework to visualize the steps in a process, right? So it's about sequence and ordinance and something happening and then another thing in an order. And so this is to understand their current experience in this sequential manner, to empathize as well with their interactions, because feelings and thoughts are a part of a journey map. And then determine opportunity areas for focus. So for example, here you can see this is about, again, from Nielsen Norman Group, jumping Jamie, right? And she wants to switch her current mobile plan. She doesn't like it. She wants another one. So you can see she's got phases, right? She wants to define what she needs and then do some comparison and then maybe negotiate, and then she chooses. And so for each of those, there are a number of steps, right? And then while she's doing those things, she has feelings and thoughts, right? Like, oh, why is this so difficult, right? And then you can start to see, like, actually, when we look at what's happening with her, here's where the pain is. And then you can consider, okay, maybe we want to hack and build a solution around that. Yeah. So 2 Ds and an E, this discover, define, and explore. The discover is, pairing empathetic discovery with our more traditional analytic discovery. So Fishbone Diagram, empathy map for sure. Maybe you want to do an experience map where you say, hey, team, let's take 30 minutes. Let's do a journey map, just so we're all on the same sheet of music and we understand how this thing works, right? So if any of those are interesting, you can certainly pick that up. And then we have define, right? So we're still in our 55 minutes to understand the problem to save the world. And again, we can spend lots of good time beautifully solving the wrong problem. So we wanted to define this. And we've got two things to talk about, and they're pretty simple. So one, are challenge statements, right? And this is just a structured way to clarify from our human's perspective the challenge we want to solve. So you see, it's pretty simple. It has like 3 parts. So for your human, so their group or their name or whatever, our solution absolutely must primary problem to solve. And if you want, you can even add other elements to solve, right? You can do a secondary or a tertiary. Probably 3 is about it. And then your third piece, how solutions fall short. That's why we're doing it, right? And so you can transform your challenge into a human-centered one. And you can get clarity and agreement in your team up front about what we want to solve from that human point of view. And then it enables all of us in our team together to shape where we want to go. So here's my example, right? So we've got the 1, the 2s, you can do multiple, and the 3. So for, wanting to have a more sustainable work experience, well, for our team, right, our solution absolutely must enable sustainability while we're at work in the workday. Why not? Let's gain some executive sponsorship. Plus, if possible, go big or go home. Let's create a sustainable product too, because, well, we want to be proud of ourselves and the company for helping to save the planet from climate devastation, and kind of the subtext being, we're not that proud right now. So challenge statement, super simple, super powerful, just take you a few minutes. Or the other technique that we wanted to talk about, how might we questions. And these are really powerful. They're also classic design thinking. This is a structured way to turn insights, right, and issues into questions that actually inspire creative action. Because the how presumes we can solve it. The might says we're not exactly sure how yet, because remember, we're not coming up with ideas yet. We've hit the pause button. We've pinned any early ideas to the wall. And we said, no, we're going to discover, we're going to define the problems, and only then go into solutions. And we're going to do this together. So you can use this to promote divergent thinking, right? Go wide, open up, think big, get outside the box, and transform, just like the challenge statement, your challenge into a human-centered one, right? Think about your empathy map. Generate a thought-provoking question that actually will help us come up with ideas. Because if you're going to do this a la design thinking, you're going to want to come up with lots of ideas and then together decide the best one, or maybe, you make a bit of an amalgamation of the ideas. And so this invites inputs from other people as well. So, my favorite heuristic, and the one that I teach, comes from Stanford's design school. It's this little PDF, you can download it. And basically what I have on the slide is just kind of my favorites from this one pager, but these are heuristics. So think about the problem that your human is having and go after the adjectives, the words that describe it, difficult, small, large, that might be a problem. Complicated, whatever it is, and then apply a heuristic. So I'll give you an example. I don't like waiting in line. Not at the butcher, the baker, or the candlestick maker. I don't like waiting in line. So how might we, let's amp up the good. How might we make waiting in line fun? Or how might we, let's remove or reduce the bad. How might we reduce the time for waiting in line? Or even, how might we eliminate waiting in line, right? Explore the opposite. Or maybe we want to change the status quo. How might we do something else besides waiting in line? And last but not least, create an analogy from the need or context. How might we make waiting in line as simple and quick as an Amazon package, right? It's just making an analogy with something else. But there is the fine print. So there's a couple of things about how might we. It's, you know, if it's so broad that you're basically just taking your challenge and making it a question, or anything can answer it, it's too broad. Because how might we, you're giving it kind of a bit of a spin, right? You're giving it a bit of a constraint. How might we make waiting in line fun versus how might we eliminate waiting in line? I will come up with different solutions because I gave it a bit of a constraint. And also, it's too narrow. First of all, if you're actually suggesting the solution. So how might we make waiting in line better by, you know, adding a ticketing system? Okay, you just told me what the solution was, and now all your effort is basically going to be around building the project for, you know, your ticketing solution. So you don't want it too narrow, and you don't want it that only a few things can answer it. Yeah. So there's a little bit about how might we, and they're really, really powerful if you want to kickstart ideation as well. So I hope you're still with me. Looking at the time, we're about halfway through. So, you know, hope you're still with me. So there you go. Those are challenge statements. How might we questions to help us consider what's the problems we really want to solve, because you can't boil the ocean, right? So, and then we've got explore, and that's finally where we can start, you know, our ideas, which is a lot of fun, start ideating. And so this is about exploring creative possibilities to solve the problems, again, for them, for the humans, the beneficiaries of whatever it is we're solving or innovating around, right? So again, it's about them. And so we always got to talk about the mindsets of design thinking when we talk about explore, because, you know, full stop, explore is about being open, right? Although closed is important too. So we use both mindsets in design thinking. Open is like the divergent thinking. It's not about good or bad. It's just about a lot of possibilities, right? And then once you do that, once you come up with lots and lots, then you do the closed, you converge. Then you like pros and cons, or you apply kind of like, well, but here's actually what's happening. So we can't do this, we can't do that, whatever, make decisions and move forward. The thing is, you cannot have both of these mindsets at the same time. And to actually try and juggle them is not only inefficient, it's ineffective. You know, Anna Maria comes up with an idea. April says, well, that won't work because. And she comes up with another idea, and I'm like, well, that might work, but only if we do this. And then, I mean, that's cognitively difficult, maybe even emotionally, and it's not really effective. So just go wide when it comes to explore. We'll definitely close as well. And so one technique to help people go open, warm-ups. Google them. There's a gazillion warm-ups out there. They're really fun. And I've got this kind of cheesy one that I do. It only takes 5 minutes, and it's real simple. And I go, ooh, everybody, I'm going to share an idea that I'm really excited about. It's super cool. You're going to love it. Here it is. Let's put seats on the top of airplane wings. And then you see people being like, what? Is she a knucklehead? And then you go, all right, so I know it's going to be really hard, but can you take 2 minutes and just consider why this idea is bad, why it won't work, why people might not like it? And you get people being like, well, okay, I'm going to get smacked in the face with a bird, or it's really cold, or I can't breathe up there, or, you know, I'm afraid of heights, or whatever it might be. You just do it for 2 minutes. And then you go, okay, so now let's share reasons why this is actually a great idea. 2 minutes. And you have people being like, oh, it's an Instagram experience, or actually I love bird watching, or, you know, there's none of these poor crying babies or people trying to start conversations with me. You get the idea. And basically you just have people opened up, right? They're a bit more playful. They're a bit more open. They're a bit more creative. And then you can go into your ideation. And the thing about ideation is that if you want to have a great idea, you gotta have a lot of them. And it's been proven over and over again, statistically, our best ideas are not our first ideas. So, and what we tend to do is we brainstorm, right? So I'm in my hackathon group, and Anna Maria, what happens? We go, okay, so what are we going to do? Who has an idea? And Anna Maria goes, oh, I have an idea. And then she tells us, and we kind of talk about it, and maybe we anchor. We might build on it a little bit, but that wasn't Anna Maria's best idea, actually. It wasn't. Even if she has two ideas, statistically speaking, her second idea is better than her first idea. And maybe I'm brave. Maybe I go, well, wait a minute. I don't think we should be doing that. I think we should be doing this other thing. And then we start having a conversation about that. But statistically speaking, that's not my best idea. So what we want to do is brain writing. And 5 minutes, you will generate so many ideas that you'll need at least half an hour to an hour to discuss them. 5 minutes if you have 6 people, because I've seen this a lot. So you just give people time. You give them ideally, your challenge statement or a how might we question, and you just, you put your timer on and you say go, and then people just write ideas. And the idea is aimed for about 20 seconds per idea. And around this time, for some of us, our inner critic kicks in, and you tell your inner critic, you know what, go have a coffee, take a hike. This is just about generating a lot. For once, this is about quantity over quality. Just generate a lot and just take 20 seconds, right? And if you see yourself stall out, then, you're trying to go into too much detail, just write it and go on. And one of two things is going to happen. Your next idea is either going to flesh it out better, or you're just going to be talking about something else, and you just go, and then you'll have a lot of ideas. So one of the things you can do to help with this is to brain write with, some kind of support. And the interesting thing in design thinking is that constraints can sometimes promote creativity, like with the how might we, right? We didn't say like fix the waiting in line problem. We said make it fun, or make it shorter, or make it disappear, or whatever, right? So focus fours is where you can do in about 5 minutes, even explaining it. Hey, everybody, let's just do like a focus fours brain writing. It's just 5 minutes, right? And you can quickly generate ideas. So you can invite input from everybody. So you don't just circle on that one idea, which statistically speaking might not be the best. Or you can even use this as a warm up, right? Before you have a conversation about what you want to do, just to have people generate a lot of ideas, and then you just kind of discuss, and then you start brainstorming, right? You can kickstart anybody who got stalled, because sometimes I'll just say, okay, we've got 5 minutes. We've got our how might we go, and I give people silence. And for some of us, it's like, oh, writer's block. And then you can give somebody a constraint, right? And also, if people have been going silently, you can say, okay, well, to kind of squeeze out those last ideas, do focus for. So what are we looking at? 2 axes, right? So the horizontal is about money. I got a little money, I got a lot of money. And the vertical axis is about time. I got a little time, I got a lot of time. And so effectively what you can do is you can just say, okay, starting with all the time in the world, all the money in the world, how might we, and then you answer the question. You give people 1 minute. You just try and, 20 seconds an idea, but even just one in each quadrant. And so I'll give you an example. So how I chose the analogy, how might we at our company and our team be as green as this cooperative organic apple orchard? We want to be just as green as they are. So if I have all the time in the world and all the money in the world, well, green office. Let's make everything green, right? Renewable energy, we're paperless, we've got LED lighting, and it shuts on and off when it, motion detection, no single use anything, et cetera, because we got a lot of time and we got a lot of money. Or maybe we got a lot of money, but we need to get something done next week, or, by the end of the month, or yesterday. Well, okay, let's send everybody all the equipment they need to have this cool home office. Now people can start working from home. We can reduce, our fossil fuel footprint. Or no money, no time. Okay, let's do meat-free Mondays. Nobody eats meat on Mondays. And then, this is kind of a show of solidarity. And we're actually doing something at work to help be more sustainable. Or even we got lots of time and still just no money. Well, then why don't we have meetings like, every Friday at the park? And before we start our meeting, maybe we did a little litter walk along the river or through the park. Or maybe we're going to build a neighborhood garden every Friday. We're going to work on it, the weeding and the planting and the whatever over time, because we don't have a lot of money, but we got a lot of time. So you see, you can do something like this and it can help people come up with ideas too. Sketching. Sketching is a great way to give ideas some more detail and bring them to life. So you see, like I made these sketches. So there's Meatless Monday. And the bar is pretty low here, guys. I didn't, this is not a Picasso or anything, but it helps people understand Meatless Mondays in a second, right? Or the green office. I could say, oh, we should have LED lighting, the heat should be lower. We should be able to have electric cars plugged in. And in the time it takes me to say that, I could just show you a picture and you'll already understand it. Process diagrams. It doesn't have to be stick people. Process diagrams, whatever it is that sketches how the idea works, right? That's the whole Steve Jobs, what is design thinking? It's not what it looks like or what it feels like, it's how it works. So consider a sketch, and you can do this in half an hour to an hour. And they're really useful in hackathons. You can visually explore how ideas are going to translate into reality. You can communicate ideas with each other. You can play with different ideas, right? And maybe make them tangible. And you can share the big picture solutions with the judges. You can use it in your pitch, right? But like, this is what we really want to do, or these are all the things we want to do. And of course, what we did in the meanwhile was a MVP, a minimum viable product. This is another and the last of our techniques that we're going to go through today. The minimum viable product is a solution with just enough features and functionality to be usable, right? So, and the time that takes, well, if you've done a hackathon before, it depends. But this is about really getting it out there. And the whole point of an MVP is to learn. Like, okay, we had all these great ideas. We're going to look at what's most important, like the core kind of beautiful part of our solution. And we want to learn about how that shows up in the world, right? And you can evaluate it in a real life scenario. Because even though maybe we did a journey map to see, how it's going to work, there's nothing like, hacking it and getting it out there and seeing how it's going to work. You can get feedback from other people and you can showcase it to a hackathon judge, right? And it doesn't have to be like a robot. It can, be bubblegum and duct tape kind of sticking things together. Basically, it's more tangible and it shows people how it works. And a little bit more on the MVP. I really like the way Spotify talks about MVPs, in particular, Henrik Knieberg. So, and he uses analogy of cars, and they say, first build a skateboard. So you think about what are the underlying user needs that you can incrementally fulfill, right? Especially those of you, who are knee deep in agile, you need to deliver value on a pretty regular basis. So if fast and comfortable transportation is what we need, well, we're not going to build it like this, according to Spotify, right? You don't build the wheels and then the chassis and then a little bit, and then finally you've got the Bugatti or whatever, right? No, first start with the skateboard, because you see your MVP, your minimum viable product, it was about, fast and comfortable transportation, but, fast is important. A skateboard is faster than walking, right? And then maybe you can add some stability and then, you can steer and you got a scooter. Maybe you move on to, a bicycle. Eventually you can deliver the Bugatti. So the MVP is really about just thinking like, of course, maybe, I want this. I want the green office, but maybe we can start a bit smaller with, something else that's already going to deliver value. So Again, the 2 Ds and an E, right? And always making things and, doing our best to validate them. So that's the warm up, right? The seats on airplane makes. You can come up with your own warm up. The brain writing with constraints. We did the focus 4s. You can do concept sketching. That really helps. It's very communicative and you can reuse it in your pitch. And also the MVP, the minimum viable product, right? I mean, that really is going to tell you how it works in a step beyond your sketching. And again, I mean, you can use it with the judges. So design thinking, this drives the empathy, right? It drives alignment, so understanding amongst your team, collaboration, right? So now we're all moving in the same direction. And when it comes time to having to split up chores and whatever, like it's just going to go so much faster because everybody knows why we're doing it. And then all those thousands of different decisions you need to make, they all just sort of move in the right direction and it drives success, which is why we like to do it at Cisco. So what we discussed in this 45 minutes, that fishbone diagram, right? So that's a technique where you're empathetic with yourself. You kind of structure what's important about where you want to hack. And then you just let people share their top of mind. And then you have like many discussions around the various aspects. An empathy map, uber important. If you only do one, that's the one I recommend. I mean, at minimum, it'll take you 15 minutes. There's really no reason not to do an empathy map. An experience map, right? That's with the circles where you just say, okay, are humans in the middle and like, who are they talking to and for what reasons? And you just visualize it, right? In a, semi-structured way, a journey map. So if there's some process that's really important in step 1, step 2, step 3, and like, what are they using? Who are they talking with? How do they feeling? Journey map is fantastic. Challenge statement. So moving into, okay, now we want to choose the right problems to solve. What are they? Challenge statements are really important because I mean, it just takes a few minutes, but like, do we all agree? Remember the shapes, right? We all agree, but that's a circle, that's a triangle, that's a square. Build a challenge statement together. It's not hard, but you all can agree on what you're, around who you want to help and, why and, what the minimum kind of solution should include. How might we questions, right? How might we eliminate waiting in line? And then, lots of different ways that we might eliminate waiting in line. And then now we can then go into our explore. And so maybe you want to do a warm up if you guys are going to start, shotgunning ideas around. Maybe you want to brain write, right? Because it's very, very, very effective, more effective than brainstorming. And if you want to do brainstorming, do brain writing first. I highly recommend it. Sketching. Right? Once you come up with those ideas, don't just say it. Like take a few minutes, sketch it out, and then people could be like, oh, okay, yeah, I get what you mean, right? Or if you all agree on what the solution is, sketch it. So again, it's not, well, I thought it was a triangle. Well, I thought it was a square. Well, I thought it was a circle. No, it works like this. And then of course, an MVP, if you can, hack your MVP, judges like that too. So we have a few resources for you. Of course, Cisco DevNet. If you go on there, you can get like lots of little templates, like an empathy map or a journey map or whatever. Although all this stuff, you can just draw it out, right? It's you don't necessarily need a template. You can Google all this stuff. It's very easy to find. And then again, I'm a big fan of the Nielsen Norman group, and they have Design Thinking 101. And so there's like videos of like 3 minutes, and Sarah Gibbons, I really like her. She's doing a lot of design thinking. The articles are very clear. And I mean, this is a company that focuses on user experience. So it's really easy to use and learn. You can find lots of templates there as well. But we did want to talk about pitching as well, because the idea is, you have this cool experience and now you need to pitch it. What do? How can you best pitch it? So we thought, well, we'd just give you a few tips and tricks that seem to work in hackathons, and then sort of, leave you with that. So my first piece of advice is to remind you that judges, they volunteer for these gigs, right? It's not like, they're getting yanked in and they don't want to be there. They're happy to be there. They want to be there and listen to your solution story. So Some of us can be a little self-critical or perfectionists or whatever. So for those of us who do this, I would say, look at it not like you're being judged, although they're called judges, but just that you're sharing your solution story, because that's what you're doing. If you win, great. But quite frankly, if you're in a hackathon, everybody's a winner. Full stop. You showed up, you're a winner. But also, there are people too. And there are ways to positively influence a judge when you are delivering your pitch. So tomorrow morning, they're going to tell you all the criteria. And yeah, I would say advice numero uno, look at the criteria and build your pitch that, reflects that criteria. It's kind of a no-brainer, but worth saying. But let's do an empathy map together. And that's what we did. We said, let's do an empathy map of a hackathon judge. So this is Moni to her friends. This is Monique. Her friends call her Moni. I'm making her up. She's 45 years old and she's a tech director, and she has volunteered to be a judge at this year's Athena Hackathon. So let's look at what it is that Moni may be thinking, feeling, her pains and her gains, and then talk about some presentation tips that fit with her experience. Let's have empathy for her. And then in that way, when we go to build our pitch, she will know and sense our positive intent towards her. And of course, it will be more clear. And, any presentation you do, know your audience, right? So let's see where we are. So what is she thinking? I had a thought about it. I'm like, okay. So she's definitely thinking this is really cool, because let's face it, hackathons are cool. And wow, so many groups here. Look at all these amazing women and non-binary. This is incredible. And also, depending on the presentation, that was a lot to take in. So these are a couple of things she's thinking. What might be some presentation tips for Moni? Well, first of all, if she's like, this is really cool, then have fun yourself and just be interesting, be yourself, because she's enjoying herself. She thinks it's cool. So channel that. Yeah. Be a part of the coolness. And so many groups. That's true. So you want to stand out in some way. And any marketeer will tell you, Anna Maria for sure, that emotion equals memorable. When we have situations that have some kind of emotion, they are statistically easier to recall for longer. So you want to stand out. You want to be memorable. So have some emotion, and you choose your emotion. Do you want to be like bouncy and exciting? Do you want to be very solemn and with gravitas? Do you want to be, sad? What is it? Have some kind of emotion, and you don't need to be all over the place with it, but it will help make your presentation memorable. And also, she's going to get presentations. I mean, it's going to happen where it's like wall of text, people, giving her tons of information. And look, best practice in presentations, when all is said and done, people are going to remember like 2 or 3 major things. So you might as well design with intention around those 2 or 3 major things that you want to resonate with them, that they can easily be like, okay, so this is about X, Y, maybe Z, right? Do it intentionally. And then visually show your solution. Use as many visuals as possible, because again, 1,000 words is what a picture is worth. And it's also easier for them, right? If they can see something, they can it just clicks. Okay, so what about feeling? What might Moni be feeling? So she's proud. She's proud of all you hackers, right? It feels really good. And she's happy to contribute, right? pride for you guys, feeling good to be a contributor to the experience. And sometimes it's a bit overwhelming. Yeah, because a judge needs to take in a lot. So, what might be some tips? Well, if she's proud, start with purpose. So, Simon Sinek, right? The golden circle, he says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And it's true. If you can convince them of your purpose, I mean, you've got them hooked. And by the way, consider a hook in the beginning. What's that one thing we can say, the purpose that's really going to hook them, and then they're going to be glued to your presentation. So start with the purpose, the real meaning, not all the detail, not we have a solution. Why? Why are you here? Why did you do this? Why is it important? People respond to that. She wants to be proud, and she's happy to contribute. So again, like the slide before where, they're judges, but they're not judging, right? They're proud of you and they're happy to contribute. Just assume benevolence. So they're not here to critique. You're already a winner. And then, Moni can be a bit overwhelmed. So what that means, and I've done this in some advanced presentation classes, talk slower. And we did an exercise. You should try it for yourself. It's kind of fun. You try it with someone you care about. Talk slower so that it feels awkward, and have them let you know, like, yeah, actually, it doesn't sound as weird as you think it does. When you talk slower, or you slow, like I do, some of your words, you're letting people stay with you as you talk. So they're not kind of running behind you, trying to process all the things you're saying while you're on to the next. You're taking them with you. And they're just going to like that more. They're going to appreciate it more. They're going to like your solution more. And also, as little text as possible. The big pictures, the visuals, and I know I broke my own rule, tons of text, but I wanted to make sure you guys had that presentation and you could reference it later. But the less text, the better. Or if you need text, put it in the backup. Put it somewhere where you can show, oh yeah, we have that, but more talk around it, huh? So pains. At a certain point, she will definitely be feeling overloaded. She may get low energy. Don't make them think. Think for, like we're doing now. So what is Moni gonna need to know, or what questions might they ask? Beyond, of course, the criteria, right? Because you're going to get that tomorrow morning, and definitely put that in your presentation in whatever way you can. But like, don't make them think. Give them the information. Say, you may be wondering about blah, blah, blah. Answer the question they didn't even ask. Have the details ready, but don't hit them with it necessarily. You don't always have to blow your whole arsenal. And also when you talk, because, they get low energy. Don't talk in a monotone like this, because it's not very energetic. And even if you have lots of interesting things to say, it may not seem very interesting. So try and, modulate your voice a little bit. It helps people, because we mirror each other. And if you're having energy and making an effort in your voice, you're moving around a little bit, your head or your hands, or, even your slides are moving, it will help them get some energy. And then last but not least, they want to feel purposeful, right? They want to make a difference too. So thank them. Thank them for being a judge. Thank them for, showing up and, making the effort. And then if they want to make a difference, you be the difference, right? You showing up together with all of these amazing people and just making an effort, that's already helping them make a difference, because they're there to kind of sort through all the wonderful things you're going to be doing, and try and, I don't know, give the feedback and what have you. So just a few presentation tips that you can consider. Take what you like and leave the rest when you present. So I've really enjoyed spending time with you. I wish you all a lot of luck and I hope you have big fun during this hackathon.
Thank you so much for the great presentation. I think we all learned a lot. I really enjoyed the tips and everything, especially the talk slower one, because I always talk very, very fast. So that was a good one. We got a question, which I think you might have answered partly, but I'm going to read it out anyway. It was about if you have any quick tips for people who attend a hackathon for the first time in their life. If you have anything for that.
So be open. When I attended the first hackathon, one of the first things I said is, this is my first hackathon and I don't know anybody. Yeah, I threw myself on their mercy. And, you know, like Mr. Rogers says in America, there's always the helpers. There's always someone who will take you by the hand and, you know, you'll end up making best friends and having a great experience. That's what I would do.
Oh, thank you. That is very true. Yes. Well, thank you so much. And if anyone has any questions, just let us know. But other than that, I hope to see everyone at the hackathon tomorrow and just join us. And if you don't have a team or don't know anyone, just come and we will find you a team and make new friends and everything. So thank you again so much for this great webinar and hopefully see everyone soon tomorrow.
Take care. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Yes.